Welcome back. This is John Locke. In today's episode, this is not going to be for business owners necessarily. This is going to be for people who are doing SEO, who are in their SEO career. They're SEO freelancers, consultants. They sell their time, expertise, their knowledge doing SEO work for other people. And there's a reason why I'm highlighting this particular forum post, and you'll understand once I tell the whole story here. Okay, so let's look at this post really quick. This person says, this person is hemming and hawing about doing a price increase for their biggest source of income. And they says, I'm in the UK. This person says, he, she, whoever, says, I'm in the UK if that makes a difference. I went freelance a couple of years ago after working client side for 15 years. So this person has been freelance for about 2 years. Okay? I do digital marketing and specialize in SEO. During this time, I've been working for a small to medium full-service agency doing SEO, pay-per-click, and various other digital marketing work. SEO is what got me in the door. They provide about 60% of my work. We get on really well. They're great people. As they were my first freelance income, I charged them a very reasonable day rate, one that no longer befits my skills and experience. They charge me out to their clients at a very high day rate, more than double what I charge the agency. The volume of work they're asking me to do is going up, which is great, but I think I've underpriced myself in the long run. Since I started, I've also built up some of my own SEO and pay-per-click clients, the other 40% of my business, and to whom I charge about 20 or 30% more than the agency now, that I'm much more comfortable with what I do and what it's worth. The agency doesn't have anyone else in-house that does what I do, and if I wasn't there, they'd likely have to fill the position full-time due to the increasing workload. They've had bad experiences with this in the past, hence me coming to them in the first place. I would like to raise my prices to the agency, even if only 10 or 20% more. My fear is that they might look elsewhere. I don't want to lose the agency work. Do you think that by telling them my day rate has gone up, it's worth it? Has anyone else lost a big source of existing income by doing this? Too long. Didn't read. How do you put up prices for existing work? Is it possible? I want to put my prices up slightly, and I'm worried that I'll put off my biggest existing source of work. All right. Okay, I'm going to tell you a little story here. And this is a story of what I went through. And I wasn't doing SEO at the time. I was doing like web development. When I first started doing web development, I had no idea what to charge. Because up until that point, my entire life, I'd been an hourly employee working for other people. And I had never worked in digital marketing. I didn't come up in an agency because when I started doing this, I was like 39. Anyway, suffice it to say that what I've found is when you start working for people at a certain price, you can bump it up a little bit, but at some point, if you bump it up more than what they're accustomed to, they're going to cut you loose. And this happened to me several times. Like the very first agency that I started doing a lot of work for, a long time ago, I bumped up my price to a point where it was no longer like what they wanted to pay. So they let me go. And around the same time, I started working for another agency doing freelance subcontracting like you're doing now. You know, I charged more than what I was charging the place before, and I thought it was like a really big step up. But like you, I went along, and it was like, oh, okay. And I would ask them stuff, from time to time. They didn't tell me like what their financials were, but I would ask little questions here and there, try and find out like what they would charge people. And basically, like at the time, I was turning designs like into functioning sites, like custom, bespoke sites. They didn't want to use page builders. They didn't want to use themes off the shelf. They wanted, bespoke themes because that's kind of the style of the agency. That's kind of what they were selling. Like they were, better than the other agencies in their area because that's what they did. So that's what they wanted to sell. I had no problem with that. But what happened was I didn't own any of the client relationships. They owned all the client relationships. Their clients had no idea who I was. And the agency really made it, they set, kind of like things in place to make sure that the people would never know who I was. when they would turn it over, they would basically, like, I would never have contact with their clients. And they were not 60%, but they were probably like 45 or 50% of my income. And when you're telling me that this agency provides 60% of your work and you get on really well and they're great people, this agency that I work for too, they were great people too. And we got on really well. And they were, really pleasant and polite and, all that stuff too. The problem is I was charging them a flat rate for sites. I was charging them, I'll just even say it, I was charging them about $2,000 a site. And the stuff that they were wanting to do just kept getting more and more and more complex. And I knew that they were marking, whatever, the markup or whatever. They got to pay their bills too and save money and all that. But I know that they were selling these sites at way more than that. And I also knew that, their profit margin was going up because of the clientele that they had and just little questions I would ask. So what I wanted to do, which I thought was really fair, is I asked him, I said, like, hey man, my rate, I've been working for you for like a while, let's bump it up, another $500 per site. Because I was doing a lot of work for them. I could point you some of these sites, and like I said, I did a lot of work. Let's just say that. And they were like, no. They were like hemming and hawing. They said, no, let's just stick with what we got, and if we give you something that's got like a lot of functionality and a lot of complicated stuff, which all of them were, getting more and more and more complicated, they said, oh, well, you can, piece that out or whatever. So basically they were telling me like, F you. So when you tell me that you've got like 60% of your work coming from this agency and you want to bump it up, one thing I can tell you is you can have this conversation with this agency. But if you don't own client relationships, they can totally tell you no. And they can totally start making plans to get somebody else in there. And yeah, it might hurt them in the short term because there's nobody else, like you said, there's nobody else doing what they do right now. But I can guarantee you, they'll find somebody else. They will find somebody else. So my advice to you is work on this 40% of your own clients where you own the client relationship and you're charging what you want to charge. You need to grow that. That's what you really need to grow. So that's my advice. Whenever you take on a new client, you can tell them whatever your rate is. You can tell them whatever it is. That's the easiest time to like propose a new rate, by the way, too, is when you take on a brand new client. You can tell them pretty much whatever you want to tell them if you want to bump stuff up. But if you have existing relationships or even existing clients, if you bump up your rate or if you bump up like what you're proposing, the work that you're doing better bump up too, or their business better be going up too. Because if you're trying to sell, and I'll tell you too, I had somebody else that I had a conversation with too that's also like a web developer. They are going through the same thing right now where they want to bump up their rate and they have a big client that's like a bunch of their business. And, and the company that they're working with, they're giving them kind of like, hemming and hawing, and they're giving them kind of like double talk. And they're, trying to figure it out. That's what I'm saying. Like, unless the business or the amount of work that you're doing is going up and the business, the overall revenue and what you're contributing to it, even with a client, a direct client where you own the client relationship, if you can't, justify it, be prepared to hear no. So my advice, start working on owning your client relationships. Get out from behind this agency, because I know, here's the thing. They give you a pipeline. They give you all these leads, but you're really just an employee without any benefits. If they're 60% of your income right now, even if they're great people, you are basically an employee without benefits. And I hate to break that to you, but you need to work on building your own clientele. You don't need this anymore. And like I said, you can have this conversation, but if I was a betting man, I would bet money that they're going to try and give you the double talk, and they're going to try and hem and haw with you over this, 10 or 20% more. They're going to give you grief over it. That's my prediction. But if you see this, let me know. I would love to hear how your conversation went. I want to know. My name's John Locke. My business is Lockdown Design and SEO, and I'm here every single day making videos on SEO. Hey, over 500 subscribers. Looks like we picked up 2 new subscribers today. We're rolling toward 100,000 views. It's pretty awesome. We're at 91,000 and change. That's pretty awesome, so we should hit that pretty soon. Thanks, everyone. I really appreciate it. That's all I got for now. Until next time, peace.